He was born on a small island near France. His family was not rich, and nobody thought he would become famous one day. But this young boy had a dream. He wanted power. He wanted greatness. Years later, he became one of the most powerful men in Europe. Kings feared him. Soldiers followed him into dangerous battles. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte, and this is his story. Welcome to Learn English with History. On this channel, you can improve your English while listening to amazing stories from history. Today, we will learn English through the story of Napoleon Bonaparte. Please listen carefully, read the captions on the screen, and enjoy the story. Now, let us begin our journey into history. Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the most famous military leaders in history. He was a soldier, a general, and later, the Emperor of France. Many people admired him because he was intelligent, brave, and ambitious. But many people also feared him because of his wars and his hunger for power. Even today, more than 200 years later, people around the world still study his life and his battles. Napoleon was born in the year 1769 on the island of Corsica. Corsica is located in the Mediterranean Sea, near France and Italy. The island was beautiful, with mountains, forests, and small villages. Napoleon grew up there with his family during a difficult time in history. His parents wanted him to have a better future, so they encouraged him to study hard and become successful. Napoleon came from a normal family. They were not extremely poor, but they were not rich either. His father worked hard to support the family, and his mother was very strong and disciplined. Napoleon respected his mother very much. As a child, he learned the importance of hard work, discipline, and education. These lessons stayed with him for the rest of his life. When Napoleon was young, he loved reading books. He spent many hours studying history, famous leaders, and military battles. Unlike many other children, Napoleon preferred reading and learning instead of playing games. He was especially interested in stories about great emperors and powerful kingdoms. Even as a young boy, he dreamed about becoming important one day. When Napoleon was 9 years old, he left Corsica and traveled to France to study. Life at school was not easy for him. He spoke French with a different accent, and some students laughed at him because he came from Corsica. Napoleon often felt lonely and different from the other students. But instead of giving up, he focused on his studies and continued working hard every day. Napoleon was a serious student. He spent long hours studying mathematics, history, geography, and military strategy. He especially enjoyed mathematics because it helped him think clearly and solve problems. While other students relaxed and played, Napoleon continued reading and learning. His teachers quickly noticed that he was intelligent and very disciplined. After finishing school, Napoleon joined the French army. He became a young officer at an early age. At first, he was not famous, and many people did not know his name. But Napoleon worked very hard and believed in himself. He studied military tactics carefully and always looked for ways to become a better leader. At that time, France was going through a major crisis. Many people were angry because the country had economic problems, high taxes, and unfair treatment. Eventually, the French Revolution began. People protested in the streets, and the king slowly lost his power. France became a dangerous and chaotic place. But for Napoleon, this moment created a great opportunity to rise and become important. Napoleon saw that France was changing quickly. The country needed strong military leaders, and Napoleon believed he could become one of them. He worked harder than many other officers around him. He spent hours studying maps, reading about battles, and planning military strategies. Slowly, important people inside the army started noticing his intelligence and leadership skills. Napoleon understood that this was his chance to become powerful and respected. Soon, Napoleon began winning battles against enemy armies. Even when his army was smaller, he often found clever ways to defeat his enemies. His soldiers admired him because he stayed calm during dangerous situations. He moved quickly, planned carefully, and surprised his opponents. News about his victories spread across France. People started talking about the young general named Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon had a special relationship with his soldiers. Unlike many leaders, he stayed close to them and understood their struggles. Sometimes he ate with them near campfires during cold nights. Sometimes he walked beside them during long and difficult journeys. The soldiers believed that Napoleon truly cared about them. Because of this, many soldiers were ready to follow him anywhere, even into dangerous battles. As Napoleon became more famous, his political power also grew stronger. In the year 1799, he took control of the French government. Many people supported him because France was tired of chaos and violence. Napoleon promised order, stability, and strength. A few years later, he crowned himself Emperor of France. Now the young boy from Corsica had become one of the most powerful men in Europe. Napoleon's power continued growing. His armies defeated many countries across Europe. Kings and emperors became worried because Napoleon was changing the balance of power. France became stronger and more influential under his leadership. Many European leaders feared that Napoleon wanted complete control over Europe. At the same time, Napoleon believed he was creating a stronger and more modern world. One of Napoleon's greatest victories happened during the Battle of Austerlitz. Many historians still consider it one of the most brilliant battles in military history. Napoleon's army was smaller than the enemy army, but he used clever tactics and careful planning to trick his opponents. The enemy made mistakes, and Napoleon attacked at exactly the right moment. The battle ended with a huge victory for France. After Austerlitz, Napoleon became even more famous across Europe. Although Napoleon won many battles, war always brought suffering and pain. Thousands of soldiers died on battlefields far from their homes. Many families lost fathers, sons, and brothers. Cities were destroyed, and people lived in fear. Europe became tired of constant wars and violence. But Napoleon continued fighting because he believed victory would bring glory and power to France. Napoleon was extremely ambitious. He wanted France to become the greatest empire in the world. Every victory made him more confident and more powerful. But sometimes, too much ambition can become dangerous. Napoleon started believing that he could never lose. He believed his army could defeat anyone, anywhere. This confidence would later lead him toward a terrible mistake. In the year 1812, Napoleon decided to invade Russia. He entered the country with one of the largest armies in history. At first, Everything seemed successful. His soldiers marched confidently across the land. But the Russian army avoided direct battles and slowly moved deeper into Russia. As they retreated, the Russians burned food, farms, and villages behind them. Soon, Napoleon's army began facing serious problems. Then, winter arrived. The Russian winter was freezing cold and extremely dangerous. Snow covered the roads and fields. Napoleon's soldiers had little food, warm clothing, or shelter. Many soldiers became sick from hunger and cold temperatures. Horses died, supplies disappeared, and morale became weaker every day. The powerful French army slowly turned into a tired and suffering group of survivors. Eventually, Napoleon realized he could not stay in Russia any longer. He ordered his army to retreat and return home, but the journey back was terrible. The soldiers were exhausted, hungry, and freezing. Many men died during the retreat. The Russian army continued attacking them along the way. By the time Napoleon escaped Russia, most of his army had disappeared. It was one of the greatest disasters of his life. After the disaster in Russia, many European countries united against Napoleon. They saw that he was weaker now. Large armies from different nations prepared to attack France. Napoleon still fought bravely and won some battles. But his enemies had become too strong and too organized. Slowly, Napoleon began losing control over Europe. His empire started falling apart. Finally, Napoleon lost his throne and his political power. He was forced to leave France and was sent to a small island called Elba. The island was isolated and far away from the center of Europe. Many people believed Napoleon's story was finally over, but Napoleon still dreamed about returning to power one day. He refused to accept defeat completely. In a surprising move, Napoleon escaped from Elba and returned to France. When soldiers were sent to stop him, something incredible happened. Instead of arresting Napoleon, many soldiers joined him again. People across France were shocked by his return. For a short period known as the 100 Days, Napoleon became leader of France once more, but his enemies quickly prepared for another war. In 1815, Napoleon fought his final battle near a place called Waterloo. This battle would decide his future forever. Napoleon fought against powerful enemy armies from Britain and Prussia. The battle was long, violent, and chaotic. At first, Napoleon hoped for victory. But slowly, the situation became worse for his army. Finally, Napoleon was defeated. His dream of ruling Europe was finished forever. After Waterloo, Napoleon was captured again. This time, he was sent very far away to a remote island called St. Helena in the Atlantic Ocean. The island was lonely and isolated. Napoleon spent the last years of his life there, far from France and far from power. He often thought about his victories, his mistakes, and the life he once had. The great emperor was now alone. In the year 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died at the age of 51. The exact cause of his death is still discussed by historians today. Some people believe he died from illness. Others believe different theories. But one thing is certain. Even after his death, Napoleon remained one of the most famous figures in world history. People continued studying his life, his battles, and his leadership for generations. Napoleon's story teaches us many important lessons. He showed the world that a person from a small beginning can achieve great things through hard work, discipline, and determination. But his story also teaches us about the dangers of unlimited ambition and the cost of war. Napoleon changed Europe forever. Some people remember him as a genius leader. Others remember him as a man who caused suffering across the continent. But no matter what people think about him, his name will always remain an important part of history. Thank you for watching, and thank you for learning English with history.